Hello, my name is Chad Jones. I'm Vice President Strategy and Product Management with DynamicOps. Today I'm going to show you a demonstration of an evolutionary technology called the Cloud Automation Center. And we're going to focus around how it enables a public cloud gateway. Now, what we mean by a public cloud gateway is the ability to take your own internal systems, your security, your licensing, ticketing, and request systems, and be able to tie them together, but then hand off to the public cloud, in this case Amazon EC2, to actually house your virtual machine. So we've got a lot to show you. Let's get to it. So if we see on the screen here, we have my user Dan, who I'm logged in as. Now Dan's just a normal user. You'll see that on the left-hand side here. Very basic interface for him, really relevant to what he needs to do. So we're going to go ahead and go into self-service, and we're going to look at my machines. Now for Dan, he actually has 3 types of machines that he's been managing, that he requires for his job. So with DynamicOps, we're able to manage both physical and virtual, both servers and desktops, on public and private cloud capacity. And that's what you see in the screen here. You have some resources that are virtual, that's in the private cloud. You have some that are actually physical, where there's a one-to-one relationship between the operating system and that physical machine. And then you have a special one called cloud. And in our nomenclature, that means you're actually managing resources inside of Amazon EC2. We will soon be expanding those capabilities as well beyond EC2, but right now we support EC2. So now let's go ahead and look at the ability to request a machine out of EC2. So now Dan is a member of a set of groups that has access to these blueprints. So these blueprints under consulting services, for example, list the machines that he is able to provision, their types, their costs, the actual boundaries of CPU and memory that he has to operate within. And then also there are leasing policies inside of here as well. It's important in the public cloud not to just leave a resource orphaned out there, because it can cost a lot of money. Right? You want to be able to make sure you have tight control over those resources, both from a resource allocation standpoint and from the ability to reclaim those resources once they're no longer needed. So if I go in here, I'll look through my types and I'll see that, well, I need this 2003 R2 SQL server to actually do some development on, and that lives out in the cloud. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that instance, and I'm going to go and say, okay, I just need one machine, and what instance type do I need? Now, it's been defined for me that I have a choice of either a large instance or an extra large instance, which maps back to Amazon EC2's particular sizing requirements. So I'll go into a large instance, and it will automatically pre-populate my CPU's memory and storage. I can now also go in and choose from a list of locations where EC2's closest data center actually resides, so that I can get the best performance and interaction with that system. Go and select US East. Now I can put in a description. I need this machine for SQL development. And that goes into the audit logs as well, so you can go back and trace why you actually use that machine. I'll go ahead and say OK. So now it will go through and actually begin the process of creating that machine. If I come into my machines, now what you'll see is that down here in my description, I've just requested that actual machine, right? It's a cloud machine. It doesn't expire ever as well. So now that we've seen how simple it is for Dan to actually create a resource inside of EC2, let's look at how we set this up. So if we go into the Enterprise Administrator portal, the first thing we're going to do is look at the Enterprise Administrator left navigation bar. Now, the first thing we're going to do is show how we actually set up a reservation. The reservation is where you place the actual virtual resource. Now, in this case, we place that out in Amazon EC2. So if we move over, we can see here we have our EC2 reservations. Now, if I go and say Edit, you'll see that we can assign this to certain security groups, our provisioning groups. What's the key pair for use inside of there? The location and region that's associated with this reservation. And we can add special properties there as well. Now, once we've defined the where, we need to go in and define the who. And that's done through provisioning groups. So in the provisioning group, if we go into consulting services, you can see that we've taken groups and individual users and put them into a manager role. That's a non-IT person that can do approval and see a group's overall resources. A support role, so someone that can go in and shadow a user if they're having trouble and help them troubleshoot. And then the basic user role as well, where you'll see here we have our user Dan. Now, of course, you would normally use Active Directory groups here instead of individual users, but you have both options. You can add custom properties underneath this as well so that you can actually bring a more granular level of specificity as you tie together these different resources. So now, that's really the who. So let's look at the what. So if I go into Global Blueprints, you'll actually see that under my cloud resource here, if I edit, you'll see that I've named the blueprint for my EC2 Win 2008 R2. Who's it assigned to? The machine prefix, just use the group default that I get from the build information. What's my approval policy? There's no approval policy here. And then what's the information that I can build off of here? So we have our selections inside of here as well. We're large and extra large. We chose our large instance. We have our boundaries that actually constrain and provide safety rails for when I'm doing provisioning out in EC2 to help keep my costs down. I can add special properties, and I actually have a cost that's calculated on top of here as well. So I can actually get back a sense of how much it costs to actually run this inside of EC2. That way that group administrator as well as the enterprise administrator can really get a handle on their cost. We can also put in security that allows that user to destroy power on, power off reboot or not. And of course, if they already have existing systems, I can change these at any time. And when I say OK, it will actually go out and change those security permissions as well. Now, if I look at the build information here as well, I get more specific about how I can actually build something. So now this blueprint has tied together the reservation that we saw that defined where we can place this resource inside of the cloud as well as its cost. We've also taken the provisioning group, the who, and tied that together with the blueprint, which is the what. So now you have this complete service end-to-end that allows a user to easily control access and management of resources inside of Amazon EC2. The use cases that enables can be as varied as your imagination. Perhaps you're bursting because you need additional capacity. Maybe you want to be able to just put your development resources out there because they're not carrying a lot of data and offload those types of capabilities. Again, it provides you with a whole world of capacity at your fingertips, again, based on your system. So that's how simple it is to actually access public cloud capacity through the DynamicOps Public Cloud Gateway. My name is Chad Jones, and thank you very much for taking the time to join us for this video today.